Daniel Park's fist grabbed his pregnant wife's hair, yanking her head back. The champagne bottle in his other hand came down fast, not poured, smashed, against her swollen belly. Glass exploded. Victoria screamed. Her hands flew to her stomach, as 800 guests gasped, then laughed. Daniel shoved her backward. She hit the stage floor hard, 7 months pregnant, bleeding, sobbing. "That's for wasting 6 years of my life," he snarled into the microphone. His mistress, Elena, kicked Victoria's ribs. Once. Twice. "Stay down." Then the ballroom doors detonated inward. 3 men in black suits materialized through the smoke. Victoria's brothers. Daniel had 30 seconds to live. Where are you watching from? Drop your city. Subscribe. This gets bloody. But what happened in the next 60 seconds would make Daniel wish he'd never been born. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. And if you want to see justice served, hit that subscribe button right now. The bottle hit before Victoria saw it coming. Glass exploded across her face, her chest, her swollen belly. Champagne soaked through the $4,000 gown she'd spent 3 weeks choosing. Shards scattered across the marble floor, catching the chandelier light like broken promises. Victoria's baby kicked hard. Once. Twice. A violent protest. Her hand shot to her stomach. No blood. No wetness that wasn't champagne. Just her daughter moving. Frightened. Confused. "Daniel," her voice broke. "What are you—" "Don't." Daniel Park grabbed the microphone, his movement sharp, controlled. "Don't say a word. For once in 6 years, just shut up and listen." 800 people filled the grand ballroom. Phones rose, recording. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Waiters froze with champagne trays suspended. Victoria tried stepping back. Her heels caught in the wet fabric. She stumbled. Elena Martinez moved fast. Not to help, to shove. Her red nails dug into Victoria's shoulder, pushing her backward. "Careful with that, baby." Elena's smile was all teeth. "Oh, wait. Does Daniel even want it?" Victoria's knees buckled. "Daniel, please. This is our anniversary. You said tonight was special." "It is special." Daniel turned to the crowd, his voice amplifying through speakers. "You're all witnessing something historic. The end of the biggest mistake I ever made." Laughter rippled through the first 3 tables, scattered, uncomfortable, but laughter. "Mistake?" Victoria's hands pressed harder against her belly. "Daniel, I'm your wife. We're having a baby. You can't what?" Daniel's eyebrows rose. "Can't tell the truth? Can't stop pretending? Watch me." Elena ran her fingers through his hair, possessive, deliberate. "Should I tell her, baby? Or do you want to?" "I'll do it." Daniel's smile widened. "Victoria, do you remember how we met? Northwestern campus. That coffee shop where I worked 3 jobs. I recited Byron to you between shifts. You said I saved you." Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. "You said you'd never hurt me." "I lied." The 2 words hung in the air. Simple. Brutal. Several guests gasped. A woman at table 7 put her hand over her mouth. But nobody moved. Nobody intervened. "You lied about what?" Victoria managed. "Everything." Daniel's voice stayed level, almost casual. "The struggling student thing? Performance. The poetry? I Googled it that morning. The whole sensitive artist who needs rescuing act? I practiced it with Elena for 3 weeks before I approached you." Elena giggled. "He should have seen the notes he took. Victoria Chen responds to vulnerability. Mention dead parents for sympathy. Quote classical literature. She's a sucker for it." Victoria shook her head. "No, you loved me." "I know you loved me. I loved your last name." Daniel's tone sharpened. I loved that you were a Harrington. Sorry, a Chen. That you came from money and connections and the kind of network a guy like me couldn't access any other way. I introduced you to everyone, Victoria said. My brother's contacts, my family's investors. I vouched for you. And I used every single introduction to build Park Industries into a billion-dollar company. Daniel's grin turned predatory. Which is 100% in my name. You signed the papers, remember? Trusted me with everything because you believed in us. The word us came out mocking. Victoria's mind reeled backward. 6 years. The engagement party at the Chen estate. Ethan pulling Daniel into the study, emerging with his jaw tight. Nathan showing her spreadsheets she'd refused to examine. Ryan suggesting they postpone the wedding, just until investigators finished their work. You can't stand seeing me happy, she'd screamed it at Ethan, her finger jabbing his chest. You've controlled me since I was 5. Well, I don't need your permission anymore. Vicky, these financial records, Ethan had tried, are fake. You're manufacturing evidence because you can't let me go. She'd eloped 3 weeks later, changed her name to Park, blocked their numbers, returned letters unopened. 5 years of silence to prove she didn't need the Chen family protection. My brothers warned me. Victoria's voice came out hollow. They told me you were using me. They were right, Daniel shrugged. Smart men, your brothers. Too bad you were too busy proving your independence to listen. Elena stepped forward, her heels clicking. The best part? She did everything voluntarily. Nobody forced her to abandon her family. Nobody forced her to hand over $5 million from her trust fund. She just believed in love. The word dripped with contempt. That money saved your company, Victoria said. When you were 3 weeks from bankruptcy, I used it to buy out my competitors and triple my market share. Daniel checked his watch. Best $5 million I ever spent. Well, technically you spent it. I just benefited. A man at table 12 stood up. Older. Distinguished. He started toward the exit. Sit down, Richard. Daniel's voice cracked like a whip. You leave now, you lose the North Side development contract. I own that project. Remember? Richard sat. Nobody else moved. Now, Daniel turned back to Victoria. Let's talk about this marriage. You keep calling yourself my wife. But here's the thing. Elena pulled out her phone, tapped the screen. The massive display behind the stage flickered to life. A wedding photo appeared. Daniel in a tuxedo. A beautiful Asian woman in white. 2 small boys in matching suits. Singapore, 2016. Elena's voice rang through the ballroom. Registered marriage, legal documentation. Birth certificates for David Park, age 7, and Michael Park, age 5. The champagne in Victoria's stomach turned to ice. That's not... Her voice failed. You're lying. Hotel Fullerton, June 14th, 2016. Daniel recited the details like a grocery list. My wife Natalie teaches elementary school. The boys play soccer. We spend Christmas in Sentosa every year. It's a nice life. Victoria couldn't breathe. The ballroom tilted. She reached for the podium, missed, caught herself on the stage edge. But you married me in 2018, she managed. We got married and you went through a ceremony, Daniel corrected. A very pretty ceremony, with flowers and a cake and a photographer. But legally, I was already married. Which means legally, you were never my wife. The word never echoed. Someone's phone clattered to the floor. A woman at table 4 made a small, horrified sound. I don't understand. Victoria's hands trembled over her belly. I signed a marriage license. I changed my name. You signed paperwork I never filed. Daniel's smile never wavered. You changed your name through a separate legal process that had nothing to do with marriage. And you called yourself Mrs. Park for 6 years while I was legally married to someone else. That's called being a mistress, Victoria." Elena laughed. "Although mistress usually implies the man actually wants to sleep with you. Daniel's barely touched you in a year." 11 months, Daniel clarified. "Not since that night I had too much scotch and forgot to be careful. Which brings us to—" He gestured at Victoria's belly. "That situation." "Our daughter," Victoria's voice cracked. "Your daughter." "A mistake I'm correcting." Daniel's tone went flat, businesslike. "I want you out of my house by tomorrow. Take your clothes. Leave everything else. The cars are mine. The house is mine. That Steinway piano you insisted on buying? Mine. Everything you thought was ours? Just mine." "I'm pregnant with your child." Victoria's voice rose, desperate. "So you claim." "You demanded the paternity test." The words tore out of her. "3 months ago, you made me take it. When it came back confirming—" "Confirming I made a mistake," Daniel cut her off. "One night of bad judgment that resulted in a pregnancy I never wanted. Elena and I are getting married next month. A real marriage, since my Singapore divorce finalized last week. We're starting a family, a planned family, with someone I actually choose." Victoria's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the stage edge, her pregnant belly making it impossible to balance. Tears blurred her vision, but she could still see faces in the crowd. Some looked shocked. Others looked away. Many kept recording. Not one person stood up to help. "You can't do this," Victoria whispered. "You can't just—" "I can do whatever I want," Daniel's voice echoed through the speakers. "I'm a billionaire, Victoria. I own half of Chicago's luxury real estate market. I have senators on speed dial. And you? You're nobody. You were nobody 6 years ago when you were desperate to rebel against your brothers. And you're nobody now." Elena produced another champagne bottle. The cork popped like a gunshot. "Should we make this memorable?" She lifted the bottle high. "No!" Victoria raised her hands, protecting her face, her belly. Champagne arced through the air. Ice-cold liquid crashed over her head, soaked through her hair, streamed down her face. It stung her eyes, filled her mouth with the taste of her own humiliation. She sat there, arms wrapped around her unborn daughter, as 800 people watched. Some laughed. Others looked away. All of them complicit in their silence. "Look at her," Elena's voice carried to every corner. "Pathetic." "Did you really think a man like Daniel would stay with someone so ordinary?" Victoria's baby kicked frantically. She felt each movement like a question. "Why aren't we safe? Why did you let this happen?" "I'm sorry," Victoria whispered to her belly. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't pay bills." Daniel stepped closer, towering over her. "Sorry doesn't build empires. Sorry is what weak people say when they realize they've lost." Victoria looked up at him. This man she'd loved for 6 years. This man she'd defended against her brother's warnings. This man whose child moved inside her right now. "I loved you," she said quietly. "You loved what I pretended to be." Daniel's expression didn't change. "That's not my problem. That's yours." He turned back to the microphone. "Everyone, I appreciate you coming tonight. This was meant to be an anniversary celebration, but as you can see, we're celebrating something better. Freedom. The end of a chapter. The beginning of something real with someone who actually matters." He pulled Elena close, kissed her. Long, deliberate, while Victoria sat soaking wet at their feet. The applause started slowly, table by table, hesitant at first, then louder. Some people were clapping for the show, others because they didn't know what else to do. A few because Daniel Park controlled their business deals and they couldn't afford to offend him. Victoria tried to stand. Her wet gown tangled around her legs. She slipped, caught herself, felt glass fragments cutting into her palm. "Need help?" Elena's voice dripped false concern. "Oh, wait. You don't have anyone to help you anymore, do you? No husband, no family, no friends who aren't terrified of Daniel." Victoria pushed herself upright. Her hand bled. Her gown was ruined. Her hair dripped champagne onto the marble floor. But she stood. "I'll leave." Her voice barely carried. "I'll go. Just, please don't hurt my baby." "Your baby?" Daniel's laugh was cold. "Not mine. Yours. You wanted it. You keep it. But don't come looking for child support. Don't come looking for anything. You signed paperwork 6 years ago that waived all financial claims. You thought you were signing prenup agreements. You were actually signing away any legal right to my money." "That's fraud," someone said from the crowd. A lawyer, maybe. A rare voice of dissent. "Prove it in court." Daniel's smile widened. "Oh, wait, you can't afford a lawyer now that your trust fund is gone. Funny how that works." Victoria took one step toward the exit, then another. The crowd parted like she carried disease. Nobody met her eyes. Nobody offered help. They just moved aside, already composing social media posts, already deciding how they'd tell this story at brunches and board meetings. She was 10 feet from the ballroom doors when they exploded inward. The sound cracked through the room like thunder. The massive oak doors, each one solid, heavy, expensive, slammed against marble walls with enough force to crack the plaster. Every head whipped around. 3 men stood in the doorway. The temperature dropped. The chandelier seemed to dim. The air pressed down with sudden, terrifying weight. Victoria's breath stopped. She knew those silhouettes. 6 years couldn't erase what was carved into her bones. The way Ethan stood, with his shoulders back, ready for war. The way Nathan's hands stayed loose at his sides, deceptively calm. The way Ryan's head tilted slightly, calculating every angle before he moved. Her brothers had found her. And from the look on Daniel's face, he'd just realized his entire world was about to end. Ethan Harrington moved first. His shoes hit marble with the kind of sound that makes people's spines straighten involuntarily. 6'3" of controlled rage crossing the ballroom floor, while 800 guests pressed back against their tables like he was radioactive. Victoria couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process that the brother she'd screamed at 6 years ago was walking toward her through a crowd that parted like he carried a weapon. He didn't look at Daniel, didn't acknowledge the stage or the microphone or the shattered champagne bottles. His eyes locked on his sister, soaking wet, 7 months pregnant, bleeding from her palms where glass had cut through skin. "Vicky." His voice came out so quiet only she could hear it. "Can you stand?" She tried. Her legs wobbled. The baby kicked hard, protesting everything that had happened in the last 20 minutes. Ethan's jacket came off in one smooth motion. Italian wool, probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. He draped it around her shoulders, and the warmth from his body heat still clinging to the fabric made something inside Victoria crack open. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Ethan, I'm so—" "Later," he cut her off gently. "Right now, I need you to go with Nathan. He's going to take you outside. Dr. Morrison's waiting in the car." "But Daniel is about to learn what happens when you put your hands on a Harrington." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Go with Nathan, Vicky. Please." Nathan appeared at her other side. 35 years old, wireframe glasses, the brother who'd taught her calculus, and how to read financial statements, and how to tell when someone was lying about their numbers. His hand was gentle on her elbow, but his eyes were fixed on Daniel, with the kind of cold focus that meant someone was about to lose everything they owned. "Come on, Bella," Nathan said. using the nickname from childhood. Let's get you checked out. I can't just leave. Victoria looked back at the stage where Daniel stood frozen, his earlier confidence evaporating as he finally recognized who just walked into his celebration. You can, Ryan's voice came from behind her. The youngest brother, at 32, the one who'd once punched a kid at her middle school for making her cry. We've got this. We've always had this. Victoria let Nathan guide her toward the exit. Each step felt like walking through water. Her dress dripped champagne onto the marble. Blood from her cut palms left tiny red dots. Guests pulled back as she passed, their earlier laughter replaced with something that looked like fear. Is that? Someone whispered. The Harrington brothers, another voice answered. Oh my God, Daniel Park is dead. Not literally, a third person murmured. But financially? Socially? Yeah, he's finished. Victoria reached the ballroom doors. Turned back one more time. Ethan stood at the base of the stage now, looking up at Daniel with an expression that made the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. Ryan had moved to the other side, blocking any exit, and Nathan was walking back toward them after depositing Victoria with 2 security guards who looked like they'd been ordered to protect her with their lives. Who the hell are you? Daniel tried for authoritative and landed somewhere around nervous. This is a private event. Security. The 4 security guards stationed around the ballroom didn't move. Security's not coming. Ryan's voice carried across the space, calm as someone ordering coffee. See, as of about 10 minutes ago, I own this hotel. Bought it through a shell company while you were busy assaulting your pregnant wife. Everyone here works for me now, including your security team. Daniel's face went white. That's impossible. You can't just buy... The Chicago Pinnacle Hotel? Ryan pulled out his phone, tapped the screen. Purchase price, $47 million. Wired transfer completed at 8:47 p.m. You want to see the receipt? Several guests had their phones out, recording everything. The live stream counters were climbing. 10,000 viewers, 20,000, 50,000. I'll sue you, Daniel said. You'll what? Ethan's voice cut through the ballroom like a blade. Explain to a judge why you just assaulted a pregnant woman in front of 800 witnesses. Want to see the video? Because I'm looking at about 3 million views right now and climbing. Daniel's hands clenched around the microphone. I don't know who you think you are. We're her brothers. Nathan adjusted his glasses, the gesture somehow more threatening than a raised fist. The brothers she cut out of her life 6 years ago, because you convinced her we were controlling. The brothers who respected her choice, even though it killed us to watch her disappear. The brothers who've been investigating you since the day you proposed. Investigating? Daniel's laugh came out shaky. I haven't done anything. You've done everything. Ethan pulled out his own phone. Nathan, show him the Morgan Stanley files. Nathan tapped his phone. The massive screen behind the stage flickered, replacing Daniel's wedding photo with spreadsheets, numbers in red. Offshore account transfers. Bank statements from the Cayman Islands. Park Industries financial records, 2019 through 2025. Nathan narrated like he was presenting to a board meeting. 17 instances of securities fraud. 9 cases of wire fraud. Embezzlement totaling $4.3 million from client escrow accounts. That's privileged information. Daniel's voice rose. You can't just... We already did. Nathan's smile was cold. Took us 4 years to get it all, but we're very patient men, especially when someone hurts our sister. Elena grabbed Daniel's arm. Baby, they're bluffing. They can't prove... We can prove all of it. Ryan stepped closer to the stage. Elena Martinez, Yale Law, class of 2018, currently employed by Morrison and Lee. You've been sleeping with Daniel for how long? 3 years? Elena's face went pale. That's none of your 3 years and 4 months, Ryan continued. Since you two met in Singapore, at Daniel's actual wife's birthday party. Funny story about that. Daniel hired you to seduce our sister's business contacts and steal proprietary information from Chen Tech Industries. The gasps that rippled through the crowd were loud enough to echo. I never, Elena started. Never what? Nathan pulled up another document. Never copied 14,000 confidential emails from Chen Tech servers? Never sold trade secrets to Park Industries' competitors? Never helped Daniel establish shell companies to hide assets from Victoria? Elena's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Daniel grabbed her hand. Don't say anything. They're trying to trap us. There's no trap. Ethan's voice was soft, conversational, terrifying. Just consequences. See, Daniel, you made a mistake. A really, really big mistake. What mistake? Daniel tried for defiant. You thought Victoria was alone. Ethan took one step closer to the stage. You thought that because she cut us off, because she changed her name, because she spent 6 years proving her independence. That meant she had no one to protect her. You thought you could humiliate her in front of Chicago's elite and walk away clean. I didn't. You smashed a bottle against her pregnant stomach. Ethan's voice went quiet. Dangerous. You shoved her down while she was bleeding. You let your mistress kick her. And you did it in front of 800 people because you thought no one would stop you. The ballroom was silent. Even the people recording had stopped whispering. Here's what you didn't know. Ethan pulled something from his pocket. A small device. Looked like a phone, but sleeker. We've been 8 blocks away for 6 years. Every single day. We respected Victoria's choice to leave, but we never stopped watching. We had investigators, private security, financial analysts tracking every dollar you made using her name. That's stalking, Daniel said weakly. That's love. Nathan appeared at Ethan's side. The kind of love that waits, that protects from a distance, that lets someone make their own mistakes while making sure those mistakes don't become fatal. Ryan joined his brothers at the stage base. 3 men, all over 6 feet, all wearing suits that probably cost more than Daniel's car, all looking at him like he was something they'd found on the bottom of their shoes. We knew about Singapore, Ryan said. We knew about Natalie and the kids. We knew about the bigamy. We've known for 4 years. Then why? Daniel's voice cracked. Why didn't we tell Victoria? Ethan finished. Because she wouldn't have believed us. She was so convinced we were controlling her, so determined to prove she didn't need the Harrington name, or money, or protection, that anything we said would have pushed her further away. So we waited. We documented. We built an airtight case, and we waited for you to show your true colors. We just didn't expect you to be stupid enough to do it publicly, Nathan added. Or violently, Ryan said. Or in front of this many cameras. Ethan gestured at the crowd. Seriously, Daniel, if you were going to destroy your life, you could have at least done it privately. Daniel's hand shook on the microphone. What do you want? Want? Ethan's eyebrows rose. We don't want anything from you, Daniel. We're here to take everything. Starting with Park Industries. Nathan tapped his phone again. The screen changed. Stock prices. Real-time updates. Park Industries stock was dropping. Fast. What did you do? Daniel stared at the numbers. Nothing illegal. Nathan's voice stayed calm. Just had our media empire publish an investigative report about Park Industries' business practices. Every instance of fraud. Every kickback. Every time you took advantage of a client's trust. It went live about 15 minutes ago. You're lying. Check your phone. Daniel fumbled for his phone. His face went gray as he scrolled. No, this isn't. Your stock's down 47% and falling, Nathan observed. Your major investors are pulling out. Your board of directors is calling emergency meetings, and the SEC is opening an investigation. Should be official by tomorrow morning. Elena's hand dropped from Daniel's arm. She took a step back. Don't even think about running, Ryan said without looking at her. We've got security at every exit. You leave this room, you get arrested for corporate espionage. Stay, and you face the consequences like an adult. You can't do this. Daniel's voice rose to something close to panic.
I have rights. I have lawyers. Had lawyers, Ethan corrected. Your entire legal team quit about 10 minutes ago. Turns out they don't like representing criminals, especially criminals who are about to lose everything in civil court. Civil court? Victoria's suing you. Nathan said it like he was discussing the weather. For fraud, for emotional distress, for assault, for theft of her trust fund, for 6 years of using her name and connections to build a business empire that you claimed was joint property, but structured entirely in your name. But we weren't legally married, Daniel said desperately. She has no claim. Oh, but that's where you're wrong, Ryan smiled. See, you convinced Victoria she was your wife. You had a ceremony. You filed fake paperwork. You held yourself out as married for tax purposes. That's called common law marriage in Illinois, and it means Victoria has a claim to everything you built during your 6-year relationship. Plus damages for fraud, Nathan added. Plus criminal charges for bigamy, Ethan continued. Plus, and this is my personal favorite, Ryan's smile widened, punitive damages for assault of a pregnant woman. Juries love pregnant women, Daniel, especially when there's video of their husbands smashing bottles against their bellies. Daniel's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the stage edge, his expensive suit wrinkling. We're ruined, Elena whispered. Not quite yet. Nathan checked his phone. You've still got about 20 minutes before the FBI arrives. FBI? Daniel's head snapped up. Wire fraud is a federal crime. Nathan shrugged. So is securities fraud. So is tax evasion, which we also found evidence of. The FBI's been building a case for 6 months. We just gave them everything they needed to make it stick. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but growing louder. The 800 guests started moving, slowly at first, then faster. Chairs scraped. Women grabbed their purses. Men pulled out phones to call lawyers, drivers, anyone who could get them away from this disaster before they got associated with it. Nobody leaves. Ethan's voice cut through the sudden noise. Everyone sits down, now. The crowd froze. You're not prisoners, Ethan continued, but you are witnesses. Every single person in this room watched a man assault his pregnant wife. You laughed. You recorded it. Some of you cheered. And now you're going to stay here and explain to federal agents exactly what you saw. You can't make us, someone started. I just bought this hotel. Ryan's voice was pleasant. Which means I control the exits, the elevators, and the parking garage. You want to leave? Fine. But your cars aren't going anywhere until the FBI clears you to go. A woman near the back started crying. This is insane, a man in a tuxedo said. We're not responsible for... You're responsible for your silence. Ethan's gaze swept the room. You watched a crime happen. You did nothing. Some of you found it entertaining. That's called being an accessory. That's called complicity. And when this goes to trial, and it will go to trial, every single one of you will be called to testify about what you saw and what you did about it. The crying woman got louder. Daniel stood up on shaky legs. I want to make a deal. A deal? Ethan's laugh was sharp. You think you have anything we want? I'll give Victoria everything. The house, the cars, the business, everything. Just call off the FBI. We can't call off the FBI, Nathan said. They're federal agents, not our employees. Then tell them I'm cooperating. Tell them I'll testify against—" Daniel looked at Elena, desperate. "Against me?" Elena's voice went shrill. "You're going to throw me under the bus?" "You were the one who suggested faking the marriage paperwork." Daniel's voice rose. "You were the one who said we could get away with it." "I was following your plan," Elena shot back. "Oh, this is beautiful." Ryan pulled out his phone, started recording. "Please, continue. The FBI loves it when criminals turn on each other." Daniel grabbed Elena's arm. "You said you loved me. You said we were partners." "I loved your money." Elena jerked free. "I loved the lifestyle. I never loved you, you idiot. You were a mark. A rich mark with a stupid wife who'd believe anything." The crowd gasped. "You used me?" Daniel's voice cracked. "Everyone uses everyone." Elena's laugh was bitter. "That's how the world works. You used Victoria, I used you, and now we're both screwed because you couldn't keep your hands to yourself for one more month." "One more month?" Nathan's attention sharpened. "Until what?" Elena's mouth snapped shut. "Until what, Elena?" Ethan repeated. Silence. Ryan tapped his phone. "Or I can just have the FBI add obstruction of justice to your charges." "The offshore accounts," Elena said quickly. "We were going to clean out everything and disappear. Next month. Daniel's divorce from Natalie would be final, my bar exam results would be official, and we were going to take everything Victoria had left and vanish to Costa Rica." Victoria's voice came from the doorway. "I'm still here." Every head turned. She stood there wrapped in Ethan's jacket, her hands bandaged now, her face cleaned of champagne, but still showing tear tracks. Dr. Morrison stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. "I told you to stay in the car," Ethan said, but his voice was gentle. "I needed to hear this." Victoria took one step into the ballroom. "I needed to hear him say it, that none of it was real, that I was just a mark." Daniel couldn't meet her eyes. 6 years. Victoria's voice was steady, stronger than it had been all night. "I gave you 6 years. I gave you my family, my money, my trust. I gave you everything I had, Daniel. And you were planning to steal what was left and disappear?" "Victoria," Daniel tried. "Don't." She held up one bandaged hand. "Don't apologize. Don't explain. Don't pretend you suddenly care. Just tell me one thing. Was any of it real? Even one moment?" Daniel looked at her, then at Elena, then at the 3 brothers who stood between him and any escape. "No," he said finally. "None of it was real." Victoria nodded slowly. "Okay. Thank you for your honesty." She turned to her brothers. "I'm ready to go now." "We're not done here," Ethan said. "Yes, we are." Victoria's voice was firm. "You've exposed him. You've ruined him. You've made sure he'll face consequences. That's enough. I don't need to watch him break down. I just need to go home." "Home?" Ethan's voice softened. "If you'll still have me." Victoria looked at her oldest brother, tears filling her eyes. "If you can forgive me for—" Ethan crossed the distance between them in 3 strides and pulled her into a hug, careful of her pregnant belly. "There's nothing to forgive, Vicky. You're my sister. You're always my sister. And you're always coming home." Nathan and Ryan joined the hug, the 4 of them standing in the doorway, while 800 guests watched, and Daniel Park's world continued to crumble behind them. The sirens were right outside now. "FBI's here," Ryan said quietly. "Let them in," Ethan ordered. The ballroom doors opened. 6 federal agents in dark suits entered, badges out, expressions grim. "Daniel Park," the lead agent called. Daniel raised one shaking hand. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, securities fraud, bigamy, and assault. You have the right to remain silent." The words faded as the Harrington brothers guided Victoria toward the exit, toward their cars,
toward the life she'd walked away from 6 years ago and was finally coming back to. Behind them, Elena was being handcuffed. Daniel was being read his rights. 800 guests were being corralled for statements. And Victoria Chen was going home.
The Koenigsegg's leather seats were butter soft and too comfortable. Victoria sat in the back with Nathan, while Ethan drove and Ryan handled phone calls in the passenger seat. Dr. Morrison had insisted on following in her own car, worried about the baby after everything that had happened. Victoria's hands rested on her belly. The baby was moving. Strong kicks. Angry kicks, maybe. Or scared kicks. Victoria didn't know how to tell the difference anymore. "She's okay," Nathan said quietly. "Doctor." Morrison checked her heartbeat. Strong and steady. "I let him hurt her." Victoria's voice came out flat. "I stood there while he smashed that bottle. And I let him hurt my baby." "You protected her." Nathan's hand covered hers gently. "Your arms went to your stomach instantly. You took the impact. That's what mothers do. Mothers don't put their babies in danger in the first place." Victoria stared out the window at Chicago lights blurring past. Mothers don't marry psychopaths and cut off their families and spend 6 years being too stupid to see the truth. "Stop," Ethan's voice from the front seat. "That word doesn't come out of your mouth again." "What word?" "Stupid. You're not stupid. You're not naive. You're not any of the things Daniel made you feel tonight. You're a woman who fell in love with someone who lied about who he was. That's not a character flaw. That's being human." Victoria's throat tightened. "You warned me. All 3 of you warned me. And I screamed at you. I said, 'God, Ethan, the things I said to you at that engagement party.'" "Were said by someone who was scared," Ethan interrupted. "Someone who'd lost her parents at 5 years old and spent her whole life watching her big brothers sacrifice everything to raise her. Someone who needed to prove she could stand on her own." "I proved I couldn't." "You proved you're strong enough to survive 6 years with a man who was actively working to destroy you." Ryan ended his call, turned in his seat to face her. "You proved you're strong enough to stand up in front of 800 people who were laughing at you. You proved you're strong enough to come back to the family you thought you'd lost forever. That's not weakness, Vicky. That's courage." The car pulled through iron gates. Victoria recognized them. The Harrington estate, 40 acres in Lincoln Park. The house she'd grown up in after their parents died. The house she'd sworn she'd never return to. "I don't have anywhere else to go," she said quietly. "Daniel owned our apartment, everything in it. I don't even have clothes that aren't soaked in champagne." "We know." Nathan helped her out of the car. "We had people pack your things 3 hours ago. Everything you own is already in your old room." Victoria stopped walking. 3 hours ago? But Daniel only... "We've been planning this for 6 months." Ethan came around the car. "Since the day we found out you were pregnant. We knew Daniel would either abandon you or escalate. We were ready for both scenarios." "You packed my apartment without me knowing?" "We had the building super let us in. Ryan said it like breaking into her apartment was completely normal. He owed me a favor. And before you ask, yes, we took everything. Photos, documents, the laptop Daniel doesn't know you have. That jewelry box your mom left you. Everything." Victoria's legs felt weak. "You've been planning my escape for 6 months?" "Longer." Nathan guided her toward the house. "We've been planning your escape since the day you married him. We just had to wait for you to want to be rescued." The front door opened before they reached it. Mrs. Chen stood there, the housekeeper who'd raised them after their parents died. 70 years old, 5 feet of pure authority. The woman who'd taught Victoria how to braid her hair and balance a checkbook and know her own worth. "Xiao Vicky," Mrs. Chen's voice cracked. She switched to Mandarin.
Rapid-fire words that meant something like, "My child, my poor child, come inside." Victoria broke. 6 years of holding herself together. 6 years of pretending she was fine. 6 years of convinced herself she'd made the right choice. All of it crumbled as Mrs. Chen pulled her into a hug that smelled like jasmine tea and the ginger cookies she used to make. "I'm sorry," Victoria sobbed into Mrs. Chen's shoulder. "I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry." "Shh." Mrs. Chen stroked her hair. "You're home now. That's all that matters." Dr. Morrison's car pulled up. She came inside with her medical bag, all business. "Let's get you checked out properly," Dr. Morrison said. "Upstairs. I want to do a full exam, ultrasound, make sure everything's okay after tonight." Victoria let them guide her upstairs. Her old room looked exactly the same. Same bed with the white duvet, same desk where she'd done homework, same bookshelf full of novels she'd loved at 17. But her clothes from the apartment were folded neatly on the dresser. Her laptop sat on the desk. Her mother's jewelry box on the nightstand. "You really took everything," she whispered. "We told you we were watching," Nathan said. "We meant it." Dr. Morrison shooed the brothers out. "Give us privacy. I'll call you when I'm done." The exam took 20 minutes. Victoria lay on her childhood bed while Dr. Morrison ran the ultrasound wand over her belly, checking measurements, heartbeat, movement. The baby's face appeared on the screen. Tiny nose, perfect fingers, completely unaware that her father was currently being booked into federal custody. "She's fine," Dr. Morrison's voice held relief. "Heart rate's good. No signs of distress. You did well protecting her tonight, Victoria." "I shouldn't have been there." Victoria stared at her daughter's face on the screen. "I should have seen this coming. Should have left him months ago." "Abuse doesn't work that way." Dr. Morrison powered down the ultrasound. "It's gradual. It's calculated. Men like Daniel spend years breaking down your defenses before they show their true nature. You're not responsible for his choices. But I'm responsible for mine, and I chose to stay. I chose to believe him. You chose to love someone." Dr. Morrison packed up her equipment. "That's not a crime. That's not stupidity. That's what we're supposed to do as human beings. The fact that he betrayed that love doesn't make you complicit in your own abuse." Victoria's hands pressed against her belly. "What do I tell her when she's old enough to ask about her father?" "You tell her the truth, that her father was a man who made terrible choices, that her mother was brave enough to walk away, that her uncles loved her before she was even born." Dr. Morrison headed for the door. "Get some rest. I'll be back tomorrow to check on you both." The brothers came back in after Dr. Morrison left. Ethan carried a tray with tea and soup. Nathan had fresh clothes. Ryan held a thick folder. "Eat first," Ethan said. "Then we talk." The soup was Mrs. Chen's recipe. Wonton soup with hand-pulled noodles, the kind she used to make when Victoria was sick as a child. The tea was jasmine, served in her mother's china cups. Victoria ate because her body needed fuel for the baby, not because she tasted anything. "Tell me what happens now," she said when the bowl was empty. "What happens to Daniel? To Elena? To me?" Ryan opened his folder. Daniel and Elena were arraigned 2 hours ago. Bail was denied due to flight risk. They're in federal custody until trial, which will probably be in 6 months. 6 months? The criminal trial. Nathan sat on the edge of her bed. Wire fraud, securities fraud, bigamy, assault. Daniel's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Elena's looking at 10 to 15 for conspiracy and corporate espionage. "And the civil case?" Victoria asked. "That's where it gets interesting." Ethan pulled up a chair. "You're technically not divorcing Daniel because you were never legally married. But Illinois recognizes common law marriage under specific circumstances. You lived together for 6 years, filed taxes jointly, held yourselves out as married. That creates legal standing.
So I can sue him?
You already are. Ryan tapped the folder. We filed this afternoon, before the party. We were waiting for him to do something that would give us leverage.
You filed before he...
Victoria's voice caught.
You knew he was going to hurt me?
We knew he was escalating. Nathan's voice was gentle. Over the past 6 months, our investigators documented 17 instances of verbal abuse, 9 instances of financial control, and 3 instances of physical intimidation. We knew something was coming. We just didn't know what or when.
So you filed paperwork and waited for him to hang himself?
We filed paperwork to protect you, Ethan corrected.
If Daniel had come to his senses, if he'd treated you right, if he'd been a decent husband and father, we would have dropped everything. But we knew he wouldn't. Men like Daniel always escalate.
Victoria looked at the 3 of them, her brothers who'd raised her after their parents died in a car crash. Ethan was 24 when it happened, suddenly responsible for a 5-year-old sister and 2 teenage brothers. He'd quit his graduate program, taken over the family business, worked 18-hour days to keep them fed and clothed and together. Nathan was 21, had put his own education on hold to help Ethan, had learned business finance by trial and error while making sure Victoria's homework got done. Ryan was 18, should have been starting college. Instead, became a third parent who drove her to ballet lessons and packed her lunches and taught her how to ride a bike. They'd sacrificed everything for her, and she'd thank them by accusing them of control and walking away.
Why didn't you give up on me?
The question came out broken.
6 years. I shut you out for 6 years. Why didn't you just let me go?
Because you're our sister. Ethan said it like it was the simplest thing in the world.
That's not conditional. That doesn't expire. You could have stayed away for 60 years and we'd still be here waiting when you came back.
I said terrible things to you. You said things a scared 24-year-old said when she thought her family was trying to control her life, Nathan shrugged. We were hurt. We were angry. But we understood. You'd spent 19 years watching us sacrifice our lives for you. It made sense that you'd feel suffocated. We didn't handle it well, Ryan admitted. We should have backed off earlier. Should have let you make smaller mistakes so you could learn without the stakes being so high. But we were scared too. We'd already lost Mom and Dad. The thought of losing you... His voice broke. Victoria started crying again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasted 6 years. I missed 6 years with you because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. You didn't waste them. Ethan moved to sit beside her on the bed. You learned. You grew up. You figured out who you were separate from us. That's important. That matters. I figured out I'm nobody without you, Victoria said bitterly. That's the grief talking. Nathan handed her tissues. Give it time. In a few months, you'll realize you survived 6 years with a predator. You built relationships, maintained friendships, grew a human being inside you, all while being actively sabotaged by someone who was supposed to love you. That's not nothing. That's extraordinary. It doesn't feel extraordinary. It feels pathetic. Right now it does. Ryan stood up, paced to the window. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here, rest, heal, have your baby, and then you're going to stand up in court and testify about everything Daniel did. And you're going to watch him lose everything. His freedom, his money, his reputation. Everything he stole from you, you're going to take back with interest.
I don't want his money.
Yes, you do. Ethan's voice was firm. Because that money was built on your trust fund, your connections, your family name. He stole it. You're taking it back. Every penny. And you're going to use it to build a life for your daughter. A life where she never has to depend on a man who'll use her. Victoria's hands pressed against her belly. What if I'm a terrible mother? What if I raise her the same way Daniel— Stop, Nathan cut her off. You're already protecting her. You took a bottle to the stomach to keep her safe. You walked away from her father, even though it meant admitting you were wrong. You came back to family who could actually help raise her.
Those are the actions of a good mother.
Mrs. Chen's making up the nursery, Ryan said. The room next to yours. We had designers come in last month. It's ready whenever you need it.
Last month?
Victoria's voice rose.
You set up a nursery last month?
We've been ready for you to come home since the day you left, Ethan said. Every room in this house has been waiting. We've been waiting. A knock on the door. Mrs. Chen entered with more tea and a plate of ginger cookies.
You eat, she ordered in Mandarin. Too skinny. Baby needs more food.
I'm 7 months pregnant, Victoria protested. I'm not too skinny. Too skinny, Mrs. Chen repeated firmly. She set the tray down, then cupped Victoria's face in both hands. 6 years I pray every day you come home. Every day I tell Buddha, bring back my girl. Tonight, prayers answered. You eat cookies. You rest. Tomorrow we talk more. She left before Victoria could respond.
She cried for 3 days when you left, Nathan said quietly.
Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't sleep. Just sat in the kitchen making your favorite foods in case you came back. Victoria bit into a ginger cookie. It tasted exactly like childhood. Like safety. Like home. I don't deserve this, she whispered. Deserve has nothing to do with it. Ryan sat on her other side. Your family. This is what family does. Even when family screws up? Especially when family screws up. Ethan smiled. That's literally the entire point of family. People who love you when you're at your worst. Who wait for you when you push them away. Who show up when you need them, even if you're too proud to ask. Victoria leaned against Ethan's shoulder. He put his arm around her carefully, avoiding her bruised ribs. What time is it? She asked. Almost midnight. It feels like this night lasted a year. It kind of did. Nathan checked his phone. By the way, the video from the party has 23 million views. Daniel's name is trending worldwide. Every major news outlet is covering it. Business Insider is calling it the biggest downfall since Theranos. Great. Victoria's voice was hollow. I'm famous for being the idiot who married a con artist. You're famous for surviving, Ryan corrected. The comments are all supportive. People are calling you brave, strong, a survivor. The narrative isn't, look at this stupid woman. It's, look at this evil man, and look at how she escaped. I didn't escape. You rescued me. You called for help, Ethan said. That's the hardest part. Admitting you need rescue. We just provided the getaway car. Victoria finished her tea. Her body felt heavy. The adrenaline crash was hitting hard. I'm tired, she admitted. Sleep. Nathan stood up. We'll be right downstairs if you need anything. Don't leave. The words came out panicked. Please. I know I'm 30 years old and pregnant and should be able to sleep alone, but I don't. I can't. We're not leaving, Ethan said firmly. Nathan's taking the chair. Ryan's got the window seat. I'll be right outside the door. You're not alone anymore, Vicky. You're never going to be alone again. They settled in like it was completely normal to have 3 grown men sleeping in a woman's childhood bedroom. Nathan pulled out his laptop, started working. Ryan took a book from the shelf. Ethan dragged a chair from the hallway and positioned it where he could see both the door and Victoria's bed. Victoria lay down in her childhood bed, wearing borrowed pajamas, her pregnant belly making it impossible to get comfortable. Her brothers were 3 silent shadows around the room, protecting her, The way they'd always protected her. The way she'd accused them of smothering her. "Ethan?" Her voice was small in the darkness. "Yeah?" "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for coming home." She closed her eyes. For the first time in 6 years, she felt safe. Outside, Chicago lights glittered. Daniel Park sat in a federal holding cell. Elena Martinez was negotiating with prosecutors. 800 witnesses were giving statements. 23 million people were watching the video of Victoria's humiliation and destruction. But inside the Harrington estate, in a bedroom that smelled like jasmine tea and ginger cookies, Victoria Chen finally let herself rest. Her brothers kept watch. The baby kicked steadily, and the long night finally began to fade toward dawn. Victoria woke to sunlight and voices downstairs. Her body ached everywhere. Ribs bruised from where Elena had kicked her. Palms bandaged from glass cuts. Back sore from sleeping awkwardly around her pregnant belly. The chair where Ethan had sat was empty. Nathan's laptop was gone. Ryan's book still sat on the windowsill, marking his spot. Her phone was on the nightstand. Not her phone, a new one. She picked it up. The lock screen showed a photo of her and her brothers from 15 years ago, before their parents died, before everything got complicated. A note was taped to the phone case. Ethan's handwriting. "New phone, new number. Only family has it. Your old phone is evidence now. Daniel can't contact you. Sleep as long as you need. We're downstairs. E." Victoria checked the time. 11 a.m. She'd slept for 11 hours straight. Her body needed to move. She stood carefully, testing her balance. The baby kicked, awake and active. Victoria put her hand on her belly. "Good morning to you too," she whispered. "Sorry about last night. That's not going to happen again, I promise." The baby kicked harder, like she was holding Victoria to that promise. Clothes were laid out on the chair. Maternity jeans, a soft sweater, her favorite sneakers from the apartment. Everything clean and ready. She showered, the hot water stinging her cuts but washing away champagne and dry blood and the feeling of Daniel's hands grabbing her hair. When she looked in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. Dark circles under her eyes, bruises blooming on her shoulder. But something else, too. Something harder. Something that hadn't been there yesterday. Downstairs, voices carried from the kitchen. Mrs. Chen's rapid Mandarin, Ethan's lower responses. Someone laughing. Ryan, probably. Victoria walked down the stairs she'd run down as a child, slid down as a teenager. Walked down for the last time 6 years ago, swearing she'd never come back. The kitchen smelled like congee and green onion pancakes. Mrs. Chen stood at the stove. Ethan sat at the island with a laptop and coffee. Nathan was on a phone call in the breakfast nook. Ryan leaned against the counter, eating directly from a takeout container. They all looked up when she entered. "She lives," Ryan said around a mouthful of noodles. "How do you feel?" Ethan closed his laptop immediately. "Like I got hit by a truck." Victoria sat at the island carefully. "But alive, that's something." Mrs. Chen appeared with a bowl of congee before Victoria even asked. "Eat. Good for baby." "I'm always eating or sleeping, according to you." "That's what pregnant women do." Mrs. Chen patted her head. "You too skinny still. Need more food." Nathan ended his call, joined them at the island. That was the lead prosecutor. "He wants to meet with you this afternoon. Go over your testimony." "Already?" Victoria's stomach clenched. "Trial's in 6 months, but they want to start building the case now, especially since the video went viral. Public pressure's making this a priority." "How viral are we talking?" Ryan pulled out his phone, scrolled. 47 million views as of this morning. Every news outlet in the country has covered it. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, even international press. BBC did a segment. Al Jazeera. You're global news, Vicky. Victoria's hands tightened around her bowl. I don't want to be news. I just want to disappear. Can't disappear now. Ethan's voice was gentle, but firm. The story's out. But we control the narrative. Nathan's been fielding media requests all morning. We're filtering everything through our PR team. Nobody gets to you without going through us first. What are people saying? That you're brave? That Daniel's a monster? That his business should have been investigated years ago? Nathan pulled up his tablet, showed her headlines. Business Insider's doing a deep dive into Park Industries. Forbes is covering the financial fraud angle. People magazine wants an exclusive interview when you're ready. I'm not doing interviews. Not now, Ethan agreed, but eventually, when the trial's over and you've had the baby and you're ready. Your story helps other women, other people trapped in situations like yours. That matters. Victoria ate her congee slowly. It was thick and warm and exactly what her grandmother used to make. Mrs. Chen had learned the recipe from her. What happened to Daniel last night? She asked. After we left. He's in federal custody at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, Ryan said. No bail. Too much flight risk. Elena's in the women's facility. Also, no bail. And their lawyers? Daniel's team quit. Nathan pulled up more documents on his tablet. All 5 lawyers withdrew from the case, citing ethical conflicts. Elena's being represented by a public defender because Morrison and Lee fired her the minute the arrest went public. The Illinois State Bar opened disciplinary proceedings this morning. How did everything happen so fast? We had everything ready. Ethan's voice was matter-of-fact. Evidence compiled. Media contacts primed. Legal team on standby. We've been preparing for this moment for 4 years. Once Daniel showed his hand, we just executed the plan. Victoria set down her spoon. 4 years. You've been planning this for 4 years. Since the day we found proof of the Singapore marriage, Nathan confirmed. We knew Daniel was committing bigamy. We knew he was defrauding you. We just needed ironclad evidence and the right moment to strike. And last night was the right moment? Last night he assaulted you in front of 800 witnesses and 3 million live stream viewers. Ryan's voice went hard. Last night he gave us everything we needed to destroy him completely. You used me as bait. Silence. No. Ethan's voice was sharp. We protected you. We had security at the party. We had people watching every exit. We had Dr. Morrison on standby. If Daniel had actually hurt you seriously, if that bottle had caused real damage, we would have intervened immediately. But you let him hurt me enough to make it count. We let him reveal who he really was, Nathan said carefully. We didn't control his actions. We didn't tell him to assault you. We just created circumstances where his true nature would emerge. And then we documented it. Victoria's hands pressed against her belly. The baby kicked steadily, a reminder of why this mattered. So, what happens now? Now, you heal, Ethan said. You rest. You get ready for the baby. And when the prosecutor's ready, you tell them everything. Every lie Daniel told. Every manipulation. Every instance of abuse. You make sure he never gets out of prison. What if I don't want to testify? Then he walks. Ryan's voice was blunt. The financial crimes are solid. The bigamy charge is ironclad. But the assault charge needs your testimony. Without it, his lawyers will argue the video was taken out of context, that it was an accident, that you're exaggerating for money. I don't want his money. Yes, you do. Nathan pulled up a spreadsheet. Park Industries is worth $1.2 billion. Daniel's personal assets are worth another $300 million. Half of that was built using your trust fund and family connections. Legally, you're entitled to at least 40% of everything. That's... Victoria did the math.
That's almost $600 million. That's justice, Ethan said. That's what you're owed for 6 years of fraud, for 6 years of emotional abuse, for assault, for the damage done to you and your daughter. Our daughter doesn't need $600 million. Our daughter needs a mother who never has to depend on a man again. Ryan set down his takeout container. Our daughter needs resources, education, security, the ability to become whoever she wants without financial constraints. You're not taking this money for revenge, Vicky. You're taking it because it's yours and because it gives your daughter choices. Mrs. Chen appeared with more congee. You argue later. Eat now. Victoria ate. The baby kicked approval. Nathan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, answered. This is Nathan Harrington. Pause. Yes, she's here. Longer pause. Absolutely not. No interviews, no statements. Any requests go through our legal team. He ended the call. That was TMZ. They're offering $500,000 for an exclusive. $500,000 to talk about the worst night of my life? Victoria's voice was hollow. They'll go higher. Everyone wants your story. But you're not giving it to them. Not yet. Not until you're ready. Will I ever be ready? Maybe. Maybe not. That's your choice. Ethan stood, refilled his coffee. Right now, your only job is to take care of yourself and that baby. Everything else, the trial, the media, the money, we'll handle it. I'm 30 years old. I should be able to handle my own life. You will, Nathan said. But right now, you're recovering from trauma. You're 7 months pregnant. You're rebuilding your entire life from scratch. Let us help. That's what family does. Victoria finished her congee. Mrs. Chen immediately replaced it with green onion pancakes. I'm going to weigh 300 pounds by the time this baby comes. Good, Mrs. Chen said firmly. Baby needs strong mama. Ryan's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. Ethan, you need to see this. Ethan took the phone, read. His expression darkened. When? 20 minutes ago. What is it? Victoria asked. Daniel's lawyer, his new lawyer, just filed a motion. Ethan handed Ryan his phone back. He's claiming the video was doctored, that you orchestrated the entire party to frame him, that you're working with us to commit extortion. Victoria's blood went cold. What? It's garbage, Nathan said immediately. Complete fabrication. 800 witnesses saw what happened. 3 million people watched it live. There's no way any judge takes this seriously. But he's still trying, Victoria's voice shook. He's still going to make me defend myself, make me prove he hurt me. That's what abusers do. Ethan came around the island, put his hand on her shoulder. They flipped the script, make themselves the victim. But it won't work. We have too much evidence, too many witnesses. He's grasping at straws because he knows he's already lost. It doesn't feel like he's lost. Because you're still in survival mode, Ryan said. Give it time. In a few weeks, when the shock wears off, you'll see this differently. You'll see that he's the one who's scared. He's the one who lost everything. You're the one who's rebuilding. A knock at the front door. Heavy. Official. Nathan went to answer it. Voices in the foyer. He came back with 2 people. A woman in her 50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. A younger man with a messenger bag. Victoria, this is Assistant U.S. Attorney Margaret Walsh. She's prosecuting Daniel's case. And this is James Chen, her lead investigator. Margaret extended her hand. Her grip was firm. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances, but I want you to know we're going to get justice for you. Everyone keeps saying that. Victoria's voice came out tired. Justice.
Like it's a thing that exists.
It does when you have evidence like we have. Margaret sat at the island, uninvited, professional, direct. I've been a prosecutor for 23 years. I've never seen a case this airtight. Daniel Park is going to prison. The only question is for how long. His lawyer just filed a motion saying I made everything up. I saw it. It's desperation. It won't hold up in court. Margaret pulled files from her bag. But I need your help. I need you to walk me through everything. Every manipulation, every lie, every instance of abuse. I need to build a timeline that shows this wasn't one bad night. This was 6 years of systematic destruction. Victoria looked at her brothers. Ethan nodded. Okay. Victoria took a breath. Where do you want me to start? The beginning. How did you meet Daniel? Northwestern campus, 6 years ago. I was getting coffee at this place near the library. He was working behind the counter. We started talking. Victoria's hands wrapped around her teacup. He seemed sweet, vulnerable. He told me he was working 3 jobs to put himself through grad school, that he'd grown up poor, that he wanted to build something that mattered. Margaret took notes. And you believed him? Why wouldn't I? Everything he said checked out. He showed me his class schedule, his work schedule. He seemed genuine. When did he find out about your family? Second date. We were talking about our families, and I mentioned my brothers raised me after my parents died. He asked what they did. I said they ran the family business. He looked it up later, texted me, "Holy shit, your family owns half of Chicago." How did he react to learning you were wealthy? He was intimidated at first, said he wasn't sure he could compete with that he was just a guy working at a coffee shop. Victoria's voice went flat. I told him money didn't matter to me, that I wanted someone who saw me for who I was, not what my family had. He said, "Then I'm your guy." Classic grooming technique. James spoke for the first time. Make the victim feel like they're choosing the relationship, like they're in control. I thought I was in control, Victoria said bitterly. I thought I was making my own decisions. Turns out he was playing me from day one. When did he propose? 8 months after we met, on the anniversary of our first date. He took me to the same coffee shop, got down on one knee in front of everyone. It felt romantic, she laughed, the sound empty. God, I was such an idiot. You were in love. Margaret's voice was firm. That's not being an idiot. That's being human. My brothers warned me. They did background checks, found financial irregularities, offshore accounts, suspicious business dealings. They begged me to wait, to investigate more. I accused them of trying to control my life. Did Daniel encourage that belief? Every day. He'd say things like, "Your brothers can't stand seeing you happy," and "They're trying to keep you dependent so you never leave." He made it seem like choosing him was choosing my own independence. So you eloped. 3 weeks after the engagement party where my brothers confronted him. We went to Vegas, got married at some chapel. Came back and I changed my name, moved into his apartment, cut off all contact with my family. Margaret wrote faster. And the trust fund? 6 months into the marriage, Daniel said his startup was about to fold, that he needed capital or he'd lose everything. I gave him $5 million. Victoria's hands clenched. He cried. He thanked me. He said I saved his life. It was all lies. Did he ever hit you before last night? No, he was smart. It was all psychological. He'd criticize my appearance, my intelligence, my worth. He'd say things like, "You're lucky I married you. No one else would put up with how needy you are." She swallowed hard. He'd forget my birthday, cancel plans at the last minute, spend weekends with business associates, and come home smelling like perfume. When I questioned him, he'd say I was paranoid, controlling, just like my brothers. Gaslighting, James said.
Textbook narcissistic abuse pattern. When did you find out you were pregnant? 4 months ago. I was terrified to tell him. He'd always said he didn't want kids, but I thought... Her voice broke. I thought maybe a baby would change things, would make him remember why he loved me. How did he react? He demanded a paternity test, said he hadn't touched me in almost a year, so how could I be pregnant? I showed him my calendar, proved the timeline. He finally admitted it was possible. The test came back confirming he was the father. He didn't apologize for doubting me, just said, "Well, I guess we're having a kid." Margaret looked up from her notes. Did he ever threaten you? Not directly, but he'd say things like, "If you ever tried to leave me, you'd have nothing. No money, no family, no one." He'd remind me I gave up everything for him, that I burned bridges with my brothers, that I was completely alone except for him. You weren't alone. Ethan's voice was quiet. We were always watching. I know that now. Victoria wiped her eye. I wish I'd known it then. Margaret closed her notebook. This is good. This is exactly what I need. With your testimony and the video evidence and the financial records Nathan's team compiled, we have enough to put Daniel away for decades. What about Elena? She's trying to flip, offering to testify against Daniel in exchange for reduced charges. But we don't need her testimony. We have everything already. So she's looking at the full sentence. How long? 10 to 15 years for conspiracy to commit fraud, corporate espionage, and accessory to assault. Victoria felt the baby kick, strong and steady, a reminder of why this mattered. When's the trial? Preliminary hearings start in 3 weeks. Full trial in 6 months. You'll need to testify. Are you prepared for that? I don't know. I've never testified before. We'll prep you. Multiple sessions. We'll go over every question the defense might ask, every way they'll try to discredit you. You'll be ready. What if I break down on the stand? What if I can't handle it? Then you break down. Margaret's voice was matter of fact. Juries respond to authentic emotion. If you cry, you cry. If you get angry, you get angry. What matters is that you tell the truth. The truth is, I was stupid enough to believe him. The truth is, you were brave enough to leave him. Margaret stood, and brave enough to stand up in court and make sure he faces consequences. That's what matters. She left her card. James followed her out. Victoria sat at the island, her tea cold now, her hands shaking. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't stand up in court and relive everything. I can't let strangers judge my choices. I can't. You can, Nathan said. Because the alternative is letting him win. Letting him get away with destroying you. Letting your daughter grow up knowing her father was a criminal who faced no consequences. She'll grow up knowing her father's in prison. She'll grow up knowing her mother was strong enough to put him there, Ryan corrected. There's a difference. Mrs. Chen appeared with more food. You rest now. Too much talk. Baby need quiet. Victoria went back upstairs to her room, lay down on her childhood bed, put her hands on her belly, and felt her daughter moving. I'm going to be strong for you, she whispered. I'm going to stand up in that courtroom and make sure he can never hurt anyone else. I'm going to make sure you know what real strength looks like. The baby kicked once, hard, like she heard, like she understood. Victoria closed her eyes. 3 weeks until preliminary hearings, 6 months until trial, and 2 months until her daughter arrived. She had time to heal, time to prepare, time to become the mother her daughter deserved. Outside her window, Chicago moved forward. Daniel sat in a cell. Elena negotiated with prosecutors. 800 witnesses gave statements. But in this room, In this moment, Victoria Chen was exactly where she needed to be. Home. Safe. Ready to fight. 2 months passed in a blur of doctor appointments and legal prep sessions and learning how to be someone's sister again after 6 years of silence. Victoria's belly grew. The baby dropped lower, getting ready. Doctor. Morrison came twice a week now, monitoring everything, making sure the stress wasn't affecting the pregnancy. Blood pressure's good, Dr. Morrison said during a Thursday afternoon visit. Baby's heartbeat is strong. You're doing everything right. Doesn't feel like it. Victoria sat on the exam table in her childhood bedroom, now converted into a temporary medical suite. I wake up every night thinking about the trial, about having to see him again. That's normal. Trauma doesn't disappear in 2 months. But you're healing. That's what matters. The preliminary hearings had been brutal. Victoria had to sit 20 feet from Daniel while lawyers argued about evidence and testimony and whether the video could be admitted. Daniel had stared at her the entire time. Not angry, not apologetic, just blank, like she was a stranger. That was somehow worse than hatred. When's your due date again? Dr. Morrison asked. 3 weeks. February 14th. Valentine's Day, baby. That's fitting. Or ironic. Victoria pulled her shirt down. Given my track record with love. Your brothers love you. Mrs. Chen loves you. That baby loves you. Seems like your track record is pretty good where it counts. After Dr. Morrison left, Victoria walked downstairs. The house was quieter than usual. Ethan was at the office. Nathan was in meetings all day. Ryan was handling something with the media. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen making dumplings, hundreds of them, freezing them for after the baby came. You sit, Mrs. Chen pointed at a stool. I make. You rest. I've been resting for 2 months. I'm going crazy. Crazy is better than hurt. Mrs. Chen's hands moved efficiently, folding dough. You heal first, then you do other things. Victoria's phone buzzed. Margaret Walsh, the prosecutor. This is Victoria. We have a problem. Margaret's voice was tight. Daniel's team just filed for a postponement. They're claiming you're too emotionally unstable to testify, that your pregnancy makes you unreliable. Victoria's grip tightened on the phone. They can't do that. They're trying. Judge is reviewing the motion now. I need you to be prepared to testify sooner than planned. Possibly within the next 2 weeks. I'm due in 3 weeks. I know. That's why we need to move fast. Can you do this? Victoria looked at Mrs. Chen, who was watching her with concerned eyes. Yes. Victoria's voice was steady. I can do this. Good. I'll call you tonight with details. The call ended. Victoria set her phone down carefully. Bad news? Mrs. Chen asked. They want me to testify before the baby comes. They're trying to delay the trial, but the judge might force it to happen now. Then you testify, you tell truth, you come home, you have baby. Mrs. Chen made it sound simple. Life keeps moving forward. Bad men go to prison. Good daughters come home. Babies get born. Everything in order. I'm scared. Being scared is smart. Being scared and doing it anyway? That's brave. Mrs. Chen finished another dumpling. You are brave, Xiao Vicky. You just forgot for 6 years. Now you remember. The front door opened. Voices in the foyer. All 3 brothers home early. Vicky? Ethan called. We need to talk. They gathered in the living room. Ethan had his lawyer face on. Nathan carried his tablet. Ryan looked angrier than she'd seen him in months. The judge denied the postponement, Ethan said without preamble. Trial starts Monday. You testify Tuesday. That's 4 days from now. I know. Margaret's team will be here tomorrow to prep you. We're doing a full run-through. Every question.
every attack they might make. You need to be ready. What if I go into labor during testimony? Then Dr. Morrison's on standby at the courthouse. Nathan pulled up schedules on his tablet. We have a plan for everything, every contingency. You're not doing this alone. What about Daniel? What's he planning? Ryan's jaw clenched. His lawyer is going to try to paint you as the manipulator, claim you targeted him for his money, that you orchestrated the entire relationship to access his business contacts. That's insane. I had more money than he did. They'll say you wanted his specific connections, his tech industry contacts. They're going to flip the entire narrative. Let them try. Victoria stood up, her pregnant belly making it awkward, but she managed. I have 800 witnesses. I have video. I have 6 years of financial records showing he stole from me. What do they have? Doubt, Ethan said quietly. All they need is reasonable doubt. One juror who thinks maybe you're exaggerating. Maybe you're after money. Maybe Daniel's not as bad as the video makes him look. The video shows him smashing a bottle against my pregnant stomach, and his lawyer will argue it was an accident, that he was emotional, that you provoked him. Nathan set down his tablet. I'm not saying it'll work. I'm saying they're going to try everything. Victoria's hands pressed against her belly. The baby was quiet right now, resting, gathering strength for the fight ahead. Then I'll be ready. She looked at her 3 brothers. I've been preparing for this my whole life. I just didn't know it. The weekend passed in intensive preparation. Margaret Walsh and her team spent Saturday and Sunday running Victoria through mock testimony. They asked every awful question, made every horrible insinuation, pushed her until she broke down crying, then taught her how to recover. The jury needs to see you're human, Margaret explained, after Victoria sobbed through a particularly brutal cross-examination practice. But they also need to see you're strong, that you survived, that you're here to tell the truth no matter how hard it is. What if I can't do both? You already are. Margaret handed her tissues. You're crying because what happened to you was traumatic. You're here anyway because you're brave. That's the story we need to tell. Sunday night, Victoria couldn't sleep. She lay in bed feeling the baby move, running through testimony in her head. Every answer, every response, every way Daniel's lawyer might try to break her. A soft knock on her door. You awake? Ethan's voice. Yeah. He came in, sat on the edge of her bed like he used to when she had nightmares as a kid. I'm terrified, Victoria admitted. I'm more scared of testifying than I was of anything Daniel did to me. That makes sense. Testifying means reliving it, means letting strangers judge you. That's harder than surviving it the first time. What if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing? Then we correct it. That's what redirect examination is for. Margaret's good at her job. She'll guide you through it. What if the jury doesn't believe me? Ethan took her hand carefully. Then we appeal. We fight harder. We don't give up until justice happens. But Vicky, they're going to believe you. Because you're telling the truth. And truth has a way of being obvious. Daniel lied for 6 years and I believed him because you wanted to believe the best in someone you loved. That's not a weakness. That's humanity. The jury will understand that. Victoria squeezed his hand. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for coming home. Monday morning arrived too fast. Victoria dressed in a simple navy dress, maternity cut, professional but not cold. Margaret had coached her on everything: appearance, body language, tone of voice. You look like a victim, Margaret had said, because you are. Don't try to be strong. Don't try to be tough. Just be honest. The courthouse was surrounded by media, cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions. Victoria's brothers formed a protective wall around her, blocking the cameras, clearing a path. Inside, the courtroom was packed, every seat filled.
sketch artists in the front row, since cameras weren't allowed. Daniel's family on one side, Victoria's brothers on the other. And Daniel himself, sitting at the defense table in an expensive suit, looking like the victim. Margaret squeezed Victoria's shoulder. "You've got this." The judge entered. Everyone stood. The trial began with opening statements. Margaret was fierce, laying out 6 years of systematic abuse and fraud. Daniel's lawyer was smooth, suggesting a bitter ex-lover seeking revenge. Then they called Victoria to the stand. The walk from her seat to the witness box felt like miles. Her legs shook, her hands trembled. But she made it. She sat down. She placed her hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Margaret started gently. "Can you state your name for the record?" "Victoria Chen." "And how do you know the defendant?" "He was my—" She caught herself. "I thought he was my husband. We were together for 6 years." "Can you tell the jury how you met?" Victoria took a breath. Then she told them everything. The coffee shop, the poetry, the vulnerability that turned out to be performance, the way he'd studied her, learned her weaknesses, exploited her need to prove independence from her family. She told them about the trust fund, the fake marriage, the years of psychological abuse, the discovery of his real wife, the pregnancy, the party. When she got to the champagne bottle, her voice broke. "He grabbed my hair," she said, "yanked my head back. Then he brought the bottle down against my stomach. I was 7 months pregnant. I felt the glass explode, felt my baby kick in terror, and I thought—" Tears streamed down her face. "I thought he killed her. I thought he killed my daughter." Several jurors were crying. One woman in the back row had her hand over her mouth. "What happened next?" Margaret asked gently. "His mistress kicked me. While I was on the floor trying to protect my baby, she kicked my ribs, called me pathetic, and 800 people watched. Some laughed. Nobody helped." "What were you thinking in that moment?" "That I was alone. That I destroyed my life and my family for a man who never loved me. That I deserved everything that was happening because I'd been stupid enough to believe him." "Do you still think that?" Victoria looked at the jury, 12 strangers who would decide if her truth mattered. "No," her voice got stronger. "I was manipulated by someone who made lying his profession. That's not stupidity. That's survival. And I survived. I got out. I came home to people who actually love me. That's not weakness. That's strength." Margaret smiled. "No further questions." Daniel's lawyer stood up. Harrison Webb, expensive suit, expensive haircut, expensive sneer. "Mrs. Park, Ms. Chen," Victoria corrected. "Excuse me?" "My name is Victoria Chen. I was never legally married to your client. He was committing bigamy." Webb's jaw tightened. "Ms. Chen, you testify that you gave the defendant $5 million. That's correct?" "Yes." "And you did so voluntarily?" "He told me his business would fail without it, that he'd lose everything." "I believed him." "But nobody forced you to write that check?" "Nobody put a gun to my head, if that's what you mean. But he spent 8 months convincing me he loved me, that we were partners, that my success was his success. That's a different kind of force." "So you're saying you were coerced?" "I'm saying I was lied to, systematically, for 6 years." Webb pulled out documents. "These are financial records showing that Park Industries paid you a salary of $150,000 annually for 6 years. That's nearly $1 million. Doesn't sound like theft to me." "I worked 80-hour weeks for that salary. I brought him clients. I opened doors using my family name. And he paid me less than his entry-level employees while building a billion-dollar company with my money and connections." "You seem very articulate for someone who claims to be a victim."
Victoria's hands clenched. Margaret had warned her about this. The way defense attorneys try to make strength look like lying. Being articulate doesn't mean I wasn't abused. It means I survived well enough to tell you about it. Webb changed tactics. Let's talk about the party. You claim my client assaulted you. But isn't it true you'd been arguing earlier that day? No. No? You had no disagreement whatsoever before the party? I didn't know there was going to be a party. He told me it was a quiet anniversary dinner. I showed up and there were 800 people. And you weren't upset about that? I was confused, not upset. I thought maybe he'd planned a surprise. So you're saying everything was fine until the champagne incident? Everything wasn't fine. Our entire marriage wasn't fine. But that specific moment? Yes. Everything escalated from 0 to assault in under 5 minutes. Webb showed the video, made the jury watch it again. Victoria had to sit there while they replayed the worst moment of her life. Now, Ms. Chen, in this video, we can see you standing very close to my client, almost confrontationally. Could you have accidentally bumped into him? No. You're certain? I'm 7 months pregnant in that video. I don't move confrontationally. I move carefully. But you were emotional? I was humiliated. He'd just told 800 people I was never his wife, that he had another family, that I was a mistake he was correcting. Yes, I was emotional. Emotional enough to exaggerate what happened? Victoria looked directly at Webb. There are 800 witnesses and 47 million people who watched that video. Are they all exaggerating too? Several jurors smiled. Webb's face reddened. No further questions. Margaret did redirect, cleaned up a few points, reinforced Victoria's credibility. Then Victoria was done. She walked back to her seat on shaking legs. Ethan grabbed her hand. You were perfect. The trial continued for 3 more days. Witnesses testified. Financial experts explained the fraud. Elena testified against Daniel in exchange for reduced sentencing, confirming every manipulation. Daniel never took the stand. His lawyer advised against it. Friday afternoon, closing arguments happened. Margaret was devastating, walking the jury through 6 years of calculated abuse. Webb tried to create doubt, suggesting Victoria was a vindictive ex seeking revenge. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Victoria sat in a private room with her brothers, waiting. Her contractions had started that morning, mild, far apart. Dr. Morrison was monitoring her. You're not having this baby in a courthouse, Ethan said firmly. I'm not having this baby until we have a verdict, Victoria shot back. At 5:47 p.m., the bailiff came in. We have a verdict. The courtroom was silent as the jury foreman stood. On the count of wire fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of securities fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of bigamy, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of assault, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty on all counts. Daniel's face went white. His lawyer started arguing immediately about appeals. But the judge was already speaking. Mr. Park, you are remanded to custody pending sentencing. Sentencing will occur in 30 days. They led him away in handcuffs. He looked at Victoria once as they passed. She met his eyes with steady calm. She'd won. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. But Margaret had prepared a statement. Short, direct. Ms. Chen is grateful for justice. She asks for privacy as she prepares to welcome her daughter. Thank you. They drove home in silence. Victoria's contractions were getting stronger, closer together. Hospital, Dr. Morrison said. Now. I want to go home first, Victoria said. Just for an hour. I need to see the house. They compromised on 30 minutes.
Victoria walked through the Harrington estate one more time before her life changed forever. The kitchen where Mrs. Chen had fed her. The living room where her brothers had welcomed her back. The bedroom where she'd healed. "Ready?" Ethan asked. "Ready." The labor took 14 hours. Ethan, Nathan, and Ryan traded off, each brother taking shifts holding her hand, timing contractions, reminding her to breathe. At 3:47 a.m. on February 15th, Victoria's daughter was born. 6 pounds, 8 ounces. Perfect lungs. Her grandmother's nose. Her mother's determination. "She's beautiful," Victoria whispered, holding her daughter for the first time. "She's so beautiful." "What's her name?" Nathan asked. Victoria had been thinking about this for months. She looked at her daughter's face, at her brothers surrounding the hospital bed, at Mrs. Chen crying happy tears in the corner. "Grace," she said. "Grace Elizabeth Chen. Because Grace is what brought me home, and Grace is what she'll always have." 3 weeks later, Daniel Park was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison. Elena Martinez got 12 years. The civil case awarded Victoria $743 million in damages and restitution. Victoria donated half of it to organizations supporting domestic abuse survivors. The rest went into a trust for Grace. She never went back to the apartment she'd shared with Daniel. Never looked at photos from their wedding. Never read the letters he sent from prison. She focused forward. Grace's first smile came at 6 weeks. Her first laugh at 3 months. Her first word at 10 months. "Mama." On Grace's first birthday, Victoria threw a party at the Harrington estate. Small. Intimate. Just family and the friends who'd stood by her. "Can you believe it's been a year?" Nathan asked, watching Grace destroy her cake. "Feels like a lifetime ago," Victoria said. "And also like yesterday." "Do you regret it?" Ryan asked. "The 6 years with him?" Victoria thought about it. Really thought. "No," she said finally. "Because those 6 years led me here. To Grace. To coming home. To understanding what real love looks like. Daniel taught me what to avoid. You 3 taught me what to fight for." Ethan raised his glass. To family. To second chances. To sisters who are brave enough to come home. To brothers who never stop waiting, Victoria added. They toasted. Grace clapped her cake-covered hands. Mrs. Chen cried happy tears again. And Victoria Chen, survivor of 6 years of systematic abuse, mother to a beautiful daughter, sister to 3 men who'd never given up on her, finally let herself believe she deserved this happiness. Because sometimes the greatest love isn't the romance that sweeps you off your feet. Sometimes it's the family who waits in the darkness, respecting your choices while protecting your future. Sometimes it's the love that lets you walk away and welcomes you home like you never left. Daniel Park sat in a federal prison cell. Elena Martinez served her sentence in Illinois. 800 witnesses learned what it meant to be complicit in cruelty. But Victoria Chen was free. She was home. She was loved. And she was teaching her daughter that real strength isn't about never falling down. It's about standing back up, walking away from destruction, and choosing the people who choose you back. That's not just survival. That's victory. And Grace Elizabeth Chen would grow up knowing exactly what victory looks like.